common sense is not so common. Friends, since the last 20 years of my teaching, I have learned a lot from my mistakes. And even today, I do make mistakes, but few ones. We do make mistakes, and that's quite obvious. And in many cases, students and teachers are likely not even aware of how certain words and actions can spoil the spiritual significance of yoga. Namaste friends, I'm Ritesh, and today we will focus on the common mistakes done by yoga teachers. Teachers are humans and imperfect, but being aware of these errors and knowing how to avoid them. So, to improve the experience of teachers and students alike, here are some of the common mistakes and how to correct or avoid them in our classes. Practicing while teaching. Yoga teachers will have different opinion on this one, as some are happy to teach from the mat and others think it should be avoided at all cost. New instructors generally best to focus entirely on teaching. Doing so will certainly help to guarantee the all energy and attention is direct towards the student where it belongs. Demonstration is fine, but beyond that, the teacher should be guiding the students safely in and out of the posture and keeping their eye on the class at all times. Again, observing rather than practicing would help a teacher offer advice, make modifications, focus on teaching and not getting your workout done during the class. It's okay to show a few poses, but do not start a workshop. Once you have demonstrated the asana, reconnect with your student and continue to keep the attention on the whole room. Sexual abuse by gurus is the exploitation of the position of trust occupied by a master of any branch of yoga for personal sexual pleasure. Allegations of such abuse have been against gurus such as Vikram Chaudhary of Hot Yoga, John Friend of Anusara Yoga, Kaustubh Desikachar, grandson of Krishnamacharya, Amrit Desai of Kripalu Yoga, Swami Rama, a founder of Himalayan Yoga Institute of Yoga Science and Philosophy, and K. Pattibi Joyce of Ashtanga. Do I need to say anything more? These examples are enough. Friends, we have to learn, we have to understand. If we abuse the trust of someone sexually while they are vulnerable, you don't deserve to call yourself a yoga teacher. Well, in my years of teaching, sorry to say, I have seen some male yoga teachers exploiting their students. Mostly, when male yoga teachers are young and the power they have goes into their head, manipulating anyone in a position of vulnerability is by definition abuse. Of course, yoga teachers are human and don't always live to the expectations as projected by their students. Teachers who sleep with their students get a bad reputation. But I'm always very careful. I give all my students equal attention. No doubt, I see attraction, but I am not attracted. I build trust before considering a physical assist. I wait a minimum of few classes before I consider giving hands-on assistant in order to build trust and familiarity first. I consider touch the last resort. I follow a hierarchy of instructions that I believe every teacher should follow. First, I give a concise verbal cue. Any student are still misaligned, I reinstate the verbal instruction and see if, if it works. And if the student still doesn't understand, I demonstrate the pose. Regardless of the gender of the teacher, it is important to maintain a boundary. Individuals come to yoga to heal and receive guidance in a safe and non-invasive environment. Yes, I agree. I was a show-off teacher, even though yoga was not competitive. But when I started practicing, and due to my martial arts background, I was more an asana teacher than a yoga teacher. Certain asanas were very easy, such as the scorpion pose or the headstand. And I thought I will get more respect when I do the advanced asanas. But friends, I was wrong. But all that was physical. We have to transit from physical to mental. Since I was stuck at one place, asanas, even though I was not consciously striving and competing, I was heavily invested psychologically and emotionally the fact that my body was capable of advanced poses. This created disconnection in my teaching. I'm trying to compare someone with a genetically different body, and that's entirely different. I got this at least intellectually. Yet, at the same time, I was telling students that yoga is not competitive, and I was demonstrating the opposite. I was a show-off teacher, and I never failed to demonstrate the scorpion pose. A pose that an average 95% of my students would never be able to do it, simply because of the underlying structural reality of the way the lumbar spine, hip joint and shoulder joints were formed. Flexibility was not the issue. When the bone contacts a bone and it is due to compression, the body will move no further. End of story. Well, I learned this later thanks to Paul Grillet. And since all my TTCs, I show this video. I demonstrated scorpion pose by saying that I meant to inspire them, to show them what is possible. But frankly speaking, it was show off. When I reflected some years later on my motivation of demonstration of advanced poses, I realized it was likely I did this to have my superiority. As a yogi, I use my bendy body to get attention. All these goes against the ethics of yoga. Now, I still do the scorpion pose, but the realization is more humbling and freeing. I have to admit, I was not walking my talk. The problems of being a show-off yoga teacher, it causes some students to feel inadequate. Many feel that they are not capable of doing the asanas at all, since they can't do fancy poses. How many times have you heard someone saying, she can't do yoga because she is not flexible? Demonstrating fancy poses gives students the wrong idea that yoga is about performance and that advanced yogis are the ones who do the advanced poses. It may even cause some students to try and force themselves to poses for which they are incapable. That can lead to injury. So friends, I did that mistake. Please, you don't do that mistake. Bring words and action together by encouraging your students to not to be competitive. As a yoga teacher, the main source of steady income is your private classes. When you have started teaching, it's always very tempting to say yes to every teaching opportunity. Well, friends, frankly speaking, most of the yoga teachers don't self-practice. Well, why? Well, money comes first. And they are so busy from running from one class to the other that they don't have time for themselves. But yes, they have time for the students. Why do we as yoga teachers let our practice suffer so easily? As teachers of anything, we are students first. We are always the students first. With this mentality comes humility and surrender. Your practice becomes your teacher. We are so busy in teaching students that we sometimes don't give importance to our own practice. Friends, sometimes we think that we are always also practicing while we are teaching, but we are completely wrong. Every time when you step on the mat, I have been doing the same asanas again and for years, but I learn something new every time. As teachers, we need to prioritize our practice and our well-being before we begin to think teaching others. Practice what you preach. The solution: reduce one class for yourself, for your self-practice. Remember Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Now the self-discipline of yoga starts. Patanjali Yoga Sutra 1.1. Teaching yoga is a very physical job. You need to demonstrate the asanas. Now with more and more classes adding up, you have created a mental stress for yourself. With all of this stress, over time, you harm yourself. Practicing ahimsa or non-violence on ourselves not only keep us healthy as teachers, but it models for our students how to practice self-care. It's wise to start with few classes a week in order to build up your experience and your core student base. Once you have got few classes under your belt, it might be time to add few more into your schedule. Teach back-to-back classes at fewer locations. Focus more on workshops and private lessons. I know it's hard to say no for new classes, but if you wish to have a better life, then start the practice of saying no. And you'll find the more you said no, the more space you get into your life for self-practice and for your family.